dun, dun, dun. Welcome everyone to Science and Beyond. Hope everyone's having a great evening. Guys, I have John DeSalvo with me. He co-hosts with me, and we're going to be talking about them. Well, I'll let him tell you about that in a minute. A couple of quick announcements. Don't forget on Mondays, guys and girls, we do political and paranormal panels every week. It's a flip flop. So last week would have been politics, but I was out of town, so we're going to skip it. And this coming Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. will be a paranormal panel. All the hosts, well, I should say all hosts, but a lot of the hosts will be there. They're great panels because we have a great group of hosts and a lot of fun to talk with. And then the following week, of course, we will be back to back to politics. So let me actually give y'all a quick date. So this Monday's the 4th. This is going to be paranormal. Then the 11th will be politics. Then the 15th paranormal. Then the 25th politics. And then the 1st paranormal. So that's our Monday schedule for the rest of the month. So y'all can check it out. I never know what hosts are going to be there. All the hosts are invited. So I never know who's going to be there with me. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a regular listener in network or a regular contributor or guest or things like that, you can also participate. Just drop us a line or give me a call at 504-273-7379 on the studio line, and we'll drop you into the conversation. Sometimes we have big panels. Sometimes it's just 3 or 4 of us. Sometimes it's 10 or 12 of us. It can get a little chaotic when there's more than 6 of us, but it's always a lot of fun, and we have a great group of hosts on the network. Oh, we have some new shows coming on. That was the whole reason I opened tonight and didn't let John open. Pete Haviland's coming back. Pete Haviland was hosting with Dean. A matter of fact, the slot that we're in right now, they used to host in. It was Supernatural Substation with Elaine Pistagno and Dean and Pete, and they used to host every week. Now, Elaine has retired, so their show left, and John and I took the slot. Pete's going to be on Saturdays from 5 to 7 p.m. with his co-host, Brian, and y'all be sure to, Brian Clune, I believe his name. Be sure to check it out. All the information is on the United Public Radio site, uprntalkradio.com. Go check it out. So that's another new show. In July, we're going to have another new show coming in, actually at the end of June. It's going to be a late-night Saturday show. It's going to run from 9 to 11. It's going to come on right after Chasing the Truth, which is from Dark Waters Radio, their syndicated show on the network. So be sure to check them all out. I mean, these days, people write to me all the time, can I get a show? Can I get a show? In the old days, we used to give away a lot of free shows. These days, we just don't have them anymore. It's just that the station's not set up like that anymore. We have way too big of an audience for us to just donate time to people unless they are coming with an audience themselves, and then it's like a swap. But right now, no, we do have a few slots. We have some paid slots. We have some daytime paid slots. But really, the evening slots, Monday through Saturday, with the exception of maybe 2, are done. So if you're interested in those 2 slots, you can always write me at icarcox.net, or you can contact me at 504-400-7194. And any of those ways, you can get hold to me if you're interested. Anyway, that's enough about all of that. My co-host, John DeSalvo, is going to come right up here now and give you a good idea of what we're going to be chit-chatting about tonight. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, we won't take any calls in the first hour, but we may take some in the second hour. So 504-273-7379. John, welcome, baby.
Hey, thanks, Joe. And
you looking sexy tonight, huh, ladies? Ooh, yeah.
Well, we got some also great shows coming up and got some wonderful guests. But let me start off by saying, mirror, mirror on the wall. Or do you remember Magic Mirror on the Wall? Luke, I am your father. Or is it, no, I am your father? And do you remember Sex in the City or Sex and the City? Now, Joe, you can answer that one, right?
I'm not touching those, man. I'm just behaving. I ain't touching them. Y'all get me involved in this conversation.
Well, basically, are these just different memories? A lot of people remember Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, and a lot of them remember Magic Mirror on the Wall. And what this effect is called the Mandela effect, because it started, remember Nelson Mandela, who served in prison in the 1980s and then was released. Many people, actually including myself, remember him dying in the 1980s, and his funeral even was on TV. And I remember that very clearly. But historically, reality in our world, he actually lived and died December, was it 2003 or something? But a total different timeline. So when thousands of people thought he died in prison, but he lived another 20 or 30 years, the question came up, is this a trick of the memory that's being played on a lot of people, which the psychologists call false memory, or our universe changing? Is there something that changes the past? And certain people remember it certain ways and others different ways. And the two modes of thought on this. One is it is a psychological effect, and our history has not changed. And I have problems with that, which I'll address. I'm not a psychologist, but I also believe that there could be real physical effects in the changing of our universe in terms of the multiverse and overlapping universes. And to be honest with you, I keep both of those theories open. And that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight, Joe. And the other things people remember is the Bernstein Bears. Some remember spelling it Brenstein, and others Brenstein. So I just want to give you the answers to those questions first, and then I want to get your input. Mirror, mirror on the wall, or magic mirror on the wall? Which do you remember?
Actually, I remember both. Mirror, mirror, I remember. Actually, the bad part is I remember mirror, mirror for two reasons. One, because of the nursery rhyme, and two, because of that TV show where the girl used to look through the little mirror thing at everybody. So I remember that one. And the other one I remember from a sci-fi show, actually. So, but the problem with all that is because the way time moves and when people hear things, new ideas come up. And then, see, like what we're talking about tonight, when we go through all of these, somebody might be listening to the show 2 years, 5 years, 3 years down the line. They might write a book or make a movie about something we were talking about. So then the effect that didn't exist now exists. But that's not really a Mandela effect. That's just a carryover from us. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, guys.
Yeah, but it is magic mirror on the wall, and it's like, wow. Okay, now science fiction. What do you remember? Luke, I am your father, or no, I am your father?
I really don't remember. I do remember the father thing, but I just, for some reason, it's been so long since I've seen it. That was like 30 years ago, man.
I know.
And the sad part is everybody says, because I guess it's like, here's another one for y'all ladies. You ever hear him say, "Beam me up, Scotty"? Not one time did Kirk ever say, "Beam me up, Scotty." In the whole entire series, he never said that. But everybody on this planet says, "Beam me up, Scotty."
Well,
so it's the same people what John's talking about.
This one is, and I always thought it was Luke, I am your father, but it's no, I am your father. If you go back and listen to it, but there's a lot of, there's a whole bunch of, like Oscar Mayer. Is it spelled Meyer? No, it's Mayer. Now, why I think it's more than just what psychologists call false memories. And, I got a list of all the explanations. I read all their papers. But the problem I have is that it affects too many people, like tens of thousands of people. And
there's only a couple of things that could cause that too, John. But go ahead.
Yeah, it affects too many people, and they all have the same alternative version of it. If it was more of a psychological, now, I'm a biophysicist, I'm also a neurophysiologist, so you would think I would favor the psychological interpretation, but I don't, because I would think just by a Boltzmann distribution law, there would be Luke, I am your father. No, I am your father. Well, Luke, I may be your father. There'd be many variations, but there's always one alternative. Like something changed our past for everybody that was in that former past, or it didn't change at all. So the reason I got into this, basically, I've been working with a former NSA cryptologist for about 2 years, and we've been decoding different magical texts and different things. And he pushed me into looking into the holographic universe because I'm a biophysicist, and my specialty is string theory. And that's where I started looking into the Mandela effect, thinking I was just going to write it off. And it was really interesting. One of the things in the Mandela effect has to do with the JFK assassination. And another one of my best friends who just recently passed away, I was writing a book with him. He was a Secret Service agent to 4 U.S. presidents, Joe Paolella and JFK. And
JFK wasn't assassinated. He just went home.
Okay. Well, anyway, he the Mandela effect is some people remember seeing 4 people in the limousine and others 6. Now, Joe was guarding the limousine, and afterwards in the White House garage was the one who discovered the bullet hole in the windshield and only told me for 40 years. But he said there were definitely 4 people, 6 people, but I remember 4. So it's really interesting how even I knew some people directly involved in some of the Mandela effect claims. The big problem with it, and I always look at both sides, as you know, Joe, and I know you do too, and that's why I think we put on credible shows. I want to see a physical object with the misspelling of the Berenstain Bears, right? Or a mirror, a little kid's book with mirror, mirror on the wall. From what I know, there's no physical evidence that we have to prove that what I'm getting at, are there 2 different universes, 2 parallel timelines? Some are slightly different and they cross over. And some people are in that crossing over, and are their memories affected by that? So they see the history as the other timeline or the other parallel universe, and others that aren't in that crossover see it as we see it now. And so I think it's an interesting theory. I won't have time to talk about it tonight, but it really does boil down on the multi-universe or multiverse theories. Some think it could have been CERN that caused the problem. Others feel, you know, I don't know. There's just so many possibilities. What am I thinking
Well,
of?
there is, but see, for me, I don't necessarily agree with that. I only really think there's one possibility. I don't really think there's a bunch of possibilities when it comes to this. Knowing what I know about some of the other research I've done and some of my degrees in electronics and all, I realized something early on when it comes to the Mandela effect. There's only really one thing that can cause this. And they call them alternative timelines, but it's not really what it is. What happened is if someone travels backwards in time and they change anything, all the people who were with them or in the line will remember it. Everybody else will not. So the people, in other words, the people at the center of the storm will remember, but the rest of the people won't. This was actually a conversation that Michio Keiko and I had live on the air, and because we were talking about time travel. And it is an effect of time travel. What people consider Mandela effect today is an actual effect of time travel. If you actually time travel, that's what's going to happen, because people don't realize this. So in order to time travel, you have to leave your timeline. You have to get out, step out on the side of it, and move backwards and step back into it. Well, when you do that, you automatically change the timeline. It's an automatic change, because for a while you didn't even exist. There was no existence for you. When you go backwards, you don't exist in the future anymore. So you only exist in the past. So anything you're changing is changing everything that was there in the future. So the people who are associated with it and contacted with it will remember, but no one else will. And since it's never anybody of any credibility that remembers, or at least that comes forward, you can't make anything out of it.
Well, you know, it's funny because I have an equation actually that shows how to, and I'll show it in a minute for those who watch it on YouTube. You don't have to assume a timeline, anything with time changing. I'm going to hold this up, but I don't know if you can you see that graph, Joe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see it.
I'll explain it because for those listening, it's a bunch of parallel lines going straight with a red line in the middle, which represents our universe. And then what the Mandala theory is, which I have graphed out, and actually I put numbers to this, which I don't think anyone else ever did. You see that our universe bends, the red line bends over into the blue. Now the y-axis is the timeline, and then the x are the universes, and it shows that the time is the same, but as we move towards time, one universe is crossing over into the other and interacting with it. Now, it doesn't have to be everybody. This is a model I made of the spherical universes, how if they bump into each other, you see there's a red and a blue patch on each of the spheres, meaning that the world's 2 balls, let's say 2 balls, and you have ink on a little bit of one and not on the other. They bang into each other, and that ink is transferred only to the places it touches. So that's why you don't have everybody having the same change of memory, or you would never have discovered it. But it's where the worlds kind of bang into each other. So that's kind of that theory. Now, the number, this is interesting. Using, oh, I lost it. Using this theory, I mathematically came up with this graph that explains deja vu and missing time. Now, ufologists would be very interested in it. I don't know if you can see this, and it's going to be
Actually, it's
impossible.
pretty clear.
I'm sorry?
It looks good. No, go. I can see it
Okay.
just fine.
It's going to be pretty impossible to explain it. But what I did was I mathematically tried to model the crossing of two universes, and would there be a change in the time? This is what you were getting at. And the answer is yes and no. It would be, but a very short, almost like microsecond or millisecond change. So if one universe crossed another universe a couple milliseconds ahead of time, that person already experienced the event, and then he's going to experience it again from the other universe, and that would explain deja vu. And
But there's a problem with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Paul Levette and I talked about this because he does quantum mechanics. He's a quantum mechanic. In the other part, I can't remember, but we got into this in great detail. The problem is alternate universes will never touch each other. They're too far apart. Dimensions will rub each other, but they call the veil of the dimensions will rub against each other. But the actual universes, in other words, because most universes are going to run a different set of physics than we do. So if they were to touch or even cross, it would be catastrophic. It would be like the antimatter reaching the matter universe and they touch together. It would be biggest bang. It would wipe out the entire existence of everything.
Well, I could find just as many physicists that will say the opposite. Plus,
actually, these aren't physicists. These are quantum mechanics. This is way above physics. This is way above physics.
I'm in quantum mechanics.
Physics is a step down from quantum mechanics.
I took 3 classes in quantum mechanics.
I'm just saying. Quantum mechanics definitely believes that the universe.
Wait. Let me give you the science. Look at the graviton. The graviton or gravity. Our gravity in our world is a lot less than it should be. Nobody knows why, but we think it exists in several other dimensions, and therefore they're all interacting with each other. So there's a lot of evidence in physics that actually the multiverse, the universes do interact, they do cross. But again, we've never observed one directly.
Couldn't have both. That's another thing, John. You couldn't have both. You couldn't have the universes and the dimensions crossing in. It would be chaotic. You can only have one or the other. You're never going to be able to have either one because let's look at it from a different point of view. So we exist in this universe. So this other universe starts bumping up against us. Now it's negatively charged.
No,
so right off the bat, it's causing.
You don't know.
And it may even be spinning in a different direction than ours is. So the thing of it is we don't know how each universe, because it's an alternate universe. It's not the same as ours. That's why they call them alternate universes. So you don't even know what the physics in these universes are. But in a standpoint dimensional thing, like Earth, since there's 100,000 billion Earths that all exist on the same Earth, that's why the gravity you were talking about is different, because you have multiple Earths existing in the same time. That's why you get the Mandela effect, because they're moving back and forth across those dimensions in time. Because anytime you travel in time, you're moving in and out of the timelines. So you're crossing dimensions. But if you try crossing universes, that's a whole different thing. I'm not even sure, even if aliens have the ability to penetrate other universes right now.
Okay, but here's the point. It's almost like black or dark matter. We have never seen dark matter or actually know it exists. It's a theoretical construct that explains 90% of the weight of our galaxy and why the galaxy spins like a pinwheel and not like a solar system. The same thing is with multi-universes. We've never seen them. This is all hypothetical calculations, and same with string theory. We've never observed the string. So
I don't believe in
okay, well, let me just say this, Joe. You and other scientists can't make assumptions that, oh, these universes never touch. We've never even seen them.
You can because they're alternate dimensions. It would be reckless for anything that created the universe to allow for other universes to touch each other. There are going to be alternate energies any way it goes. Even if it's a universe really close to ours, it's still going to be a different energy than we are. We don't even know how it was created. We don't know how that universe was created. Was it created by a Big Bang? Did God snap his fingers? Did the aliens create it? So we don't know this. So I'm just having a hard time with something as big as a universe touching another universe.
Take a look at this now. What I'm saying is each of those blue lines further away from us, there's a larger change in the history. So a blue universe, a parallel line very close to our red line, very close is going to have very small changes in the history. And we're not saying they're going to merge or bump into each other. They're going to cross over like fragments, segments, like in a gene splicing. And that's what is going to be transferred, or the memory of that.
But that can't happen, John, because you're not taking gravity and magnetism into account here. So you only got two. Listen. You only got two possibilities here. Either the two universes are attracted to each other and they become one, just like they do in our real time. Universes merge. I mean, galaxies merge all the time in our current timelines. They merge like Andromeda. Even our galaxy is currently eating 17 other galaxies. So if two universes were to get that close, they would either pop each other apart because they repelled each other and create chaos, or they would merge together as one universe. It's too much energy to be that close together. The amount of power contained in a universe is ridiculous. We don't even have a number for it. So trying to put it close to anything.
The universe the universe's charges are zero. And so universes like entropy or the conservation of matter and energy, we would have a zero charge, and both universes would be equivalent in entropy, except for a few time changes. But essentially, their physics would be the same. So you're not going to have like a positive and negative.
The same. No, they're alternate universes. Why would the physics be the same?
Well,
you have alternate. The physics in each universe should be slightly different, and some of them should be radically different.
And as you move further away from that red line, you get to universes that are very different. So we're talking about millions. Like every decision you make, let's say, has 5 alternatives, and then those have 5. So universes
that's
could be
dimensional
really
geometry
branch,
is what you're talking about. That's not universal geometry. That's dimensional geometry. It's not the same thing. People get confused between, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people get confused between dimensions and alternate universes. Each universe contains a multitude of dimensions. That's what people don't understand. Each universe does. So when you start pushing these two universes closer together, not only do you have universes of different energies touching each other, but you have energies with multiple dimensions crisscrossing. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Let's go
when our galaxies merge, and because this is the same thing, when our galaxy merge, it is a disaster. I mean, it kills trillions of beings. It wipes out tons of planets. It changes everything. It reforms the landscape. It restructures everything. And that's what would happen if two universes got close. But
we're talking about different three-dimensional space-time. Let me give you an example from superstring theory, which is my other specialty, okay? In superstring theory, you have to, and equations are quite difficult, by the way. It took me many, many years. In superstring theory, you have to postulate the existence of 11 actually it used to be 10, now it's 11 spatial dimensions in order for string theory to work. And Ed Witten, one of my idols, is the one who saved string theory. Where are these hidden dimensions? They are wrapped into our spatial dimension. That's what we think. So we're interacting with these 11 dimensions. They're all interacting. They're all part of the same cosmos, and there is no problem. And so now actually there could be up to 30 dimensions in certain cases, but
according to most science today, there are millions of dimensions.
Well, I'm saying,
but the reason they don't do that is because they're layered. Well, I don't believe in string theory because it's a loop. String theory just turns out to be a loop, so you can only go so far and so far back. You can't really travel in great length.
I don't know what you mean.
I don't believe it.
I don't know what you mean a loop, but they're open and closed strings.
It's a figure 8 is actually what it is. It's a figure 8.
Well, there are open and closed strings. There's strings that are attached to the membranes or brains.
I've interviewed several scientists in the show about this. Everyone tells me the same thing. It's a figure 8. It only touches in the middle where the strings go across. Other than that, it's just an 8. And it's
that's not true.
These guys are brilliant, John. I mean, these are some of the top physicists in the country and quantum mechanics.
I would refer them to Michio Kaku's book or Brian Green's book.
What are you talking about? Michio Kaku and I talked about this. It's on his show. You can go listen to him when he talks to him about this.
There's pictures of strings that are unlooped, looped, closed, hooked to membranes. Same with Brian Green. So the thing is, we have never observed strings. You got to keep that in mind. This is all theoretical construct. But they believe that universes could actually bang into each other. And maybe that's what the Big Bang is, where one universe binds into another, and at that point causes a big bang and a creation of another universe. Again,
and then you made a big assumption right there. You're making an assumption that the universe is enclosed.
No. That's Michio and Brian Greene and
I'm just saying, anybody who's saying this is making an assumption that the universe is encased and enclosed. Knowing from our own universe, our universe is enclosed in. As far as we know, it's endless and it keeps going on forever.
Some physicists have actually calculated the radius of the universe and think it's a closed system. Others think it's an infinite system. Again, it's an open question.
It is an open question. It's a big one.
Well, it's like Stephen Hawking. He tried to explain, like people would say, I mean, this is really fun stuff because it goes to the basis of our existence. But one of the big questions which he was working on, and actually which led me into this, is that as you, things that go into a black hole disappear from the universe. So that destroys the idea of conservation of information. We say conservation of energy and matter, but it's really a zero law of thermodynamics, which is conservation of information. So how do you justify that? And the whole idea is, as you approach the black hole, the object starts to freeze and actually never leaves our universe, but projects a 3D image into the black hole. And that's what Stephen Hawking was trying to do to resolve the idea of conservation of information. So
I read a lot of Hawkins. I've learned a lot of Hawkings' work. He was wrong about a lot of things, by the way. He's been proven wrong about a lot of things now. I read his book, The Universe in a Nutshell, which is a great book. In case you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I have a bachelor's in science. That's when Jack just answered. Yeah, I have advanced degrees in avionics and electronics. I have a bachelor's in science. Yeah, I'm not ignorant when it comes to science in any means. I'm very well educated in all the theories we're talking about tonight. The thing about it all is you can't leave out the dimension. So knowing that we have multiple stacked dimensions all around us and that Earth is actually just layered one top, on top. That's why you can tell the veils touch each other. The veils get thin from point to point because the dimensions are rubbing against each other constantly. So they do wear spots. But if a universe was to do that, it would cause a major catastrophe. Just the sheer force of the two bumping together is enough to really wipe out a good section of one of them. But dimensions aren't stacked like that. Dimensions aren't like that. They're not self-contained. They're layered. Dimensions, that's why they call them dimensions. They're just kind of layered over each other. And they would be allowed to rub against each other. That's where you could actually move around. And that's why some people will tell you. I read a paper one day. I had this weird thing, and I woke up and I went for a walk, and I came home and read the paper, and I read all this stuff. And then I turned around and walked back the way I came. And then when I got home, I read the paper again. It was a different paper. Or they read the paper and something happened, down the line, like 2 or 3 or 4 days. Because some of the dimensions, timelines can be slower or faster than us. Probably not a lot slower or faster, but, a week or two in either direction. So it gives you that advantage. But if you start traveling backwards in time, which, I don't know, Jack, a lot of people say you can't travel in time because time doesn't exist anymore, forward or backwards. Because remember, everybody alive today is a time traveler. As I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you in the now, but the words I just said are in the past. What I'm saying right now and what I'm thinking about is the future. That's how it works. Your past, present, future all exist at the same time. And it's easy to prove because as I'm talking, I'm existing in all three realms. What the words I just said are passing away into the past. The words I'm saying right now are in the present, and what's getting ready to come out of the mouth is in the future. So everybody on the planet's a time. That's a fact. There's no scientist on this planet will argue with the fact that it looks like time exists all in one spot. If that's true, then it's going to be way hard to move around in it. It's not impossible, just way hard. I mean, beyond our technology.
Yeah, in fact, what's going to be exciting is one guest I'm going to have on who actually was a guest on several times on my radio show was the one who's building the time machine at UConn. I can't think of his name. It's my buddy. I can't even think of his name now. But he talks about the time and the interfaces, and it was interesting. Ron Mallett, Dr. Ron Mallett, and who's that famous actor who's going to do Spike? What's that guy's name? That actor?
Spike Lee? Or?
Yeah. I think so. He was going to do his life story. But Ron Mallett is a theoretical physicist from University of Connecticut. And he is the only one. He's been on in New York Times, I think, the cover. he is the one who's building an actual, he showed me an actual time machine using lasers. And it's really interesting. And he'll be a guest on this show. I just got to set a date for him. Maybe we could do a video thing with him too, and he could show us his lab.
Oh yeah,
But
man,
the thing with time is, he's of the opinion we can't go forward. If I'm not, I don't want to quote him out of hand.
Probably is a lot of people, or is we can't go forward because it doesn't exist. That's why a lot of people think we can't travel forward in time, because as we're talking, time only exists so far ahead of us, like a few milliseconds. At least that's what they believe. If that's true, yeah, then you can travel and think. But if that was actually true, then you wouldn't be able to affect the future from the past. So
it could be. Well, he
yeah,
believes we could go back.
A combination.
Yeah, he believes we could go back, but we can only go forward to where the time machine was invented, which is very interesting. But see, he lost his father. It's a very interesting story when he was a little kid, and he got a copy of the, which same with me, a time machine, H.G. Wells comic book, and he always had the dream to be able to go back in time to tell his father not to work so hard so he didn't get a heart attack. And so that was his motivating factor for becoming a physicist. And when we talked, we also read the same books on Einstein, which motivated us. But he became a famous physicist. I didn't. But he, again, is the only one on this planet that actually has the equipment and scientific hookup that may allow him. It's like he would go back, it would be like milliseconds in time, just to show that it could be done. Now, he hasn't done it yet, but he would be the one to do this. And it's interesting him talking about how he developed his theory. Now, I got sidetracked here, but I just want to mention, we really get good guests here. My theory does not involve a time differential, because the y-axis of my movement of the universes are through a constant spatial time system. So what it is it's the movement in space, not in time, that produces the overlap. But if one universe, as I mentioned, overlaps another one just a little bit after or before, the person is going to see the same event twice who's involved in that overlap. And that's why you have the deja vu. Now, missing time could be a big overlap. And and I haven't worked out any of those numbers yet. So, but maybe a lot of the ufology stuff where people claim of missing time could be explained through the, multi-universe theory. It's very interesting, because as you know, I think there are many possibilities. But it was really funny, because when I started working out the equations and the graphs, it explained so much. This is, again, I wish more people would watch us on video. This is like what Hawkins' idea is: as an object approaches the event horizon, it has information. So if it went into the event horizon, which is the outskirts of a black hole, where if you pass that, light can't escape and nothing can come out, the object does not go in, but projects a 3D image of itself inside the black hole. So in a sense, it exists in two different realities. One is it exists still in our universe on the surface of the event horizon, and it also exists in the center of the black hole, thus keeping the conservation of information constant in our universe, but yet entering the black hole. It's really interesting stuff. And what it does show is that objects can exist in two places at one time.
It's interesting you said that, John. Yeah. A friend of mine who teaches at Tulane, Jack Routhel, he's a theoretical physicist, what he is. And he theorizes that black holes themselves exist in two universes. They exist in a black hole here and the sun in the other one. And the reason he said that is because he said, if you ever watch the sun's form or understand how the sun forms, when you get enough material, no matter how intense the gravity is, the star is still going to explode and activate. So he says what's happening is as it's intensifying here, and this is what I meant by different universes. So what he's saying is, if there's he calls them sister universes. So we have a sister universe that's attached to our universe. So when these black holes form, they form a new sun wherever the other universe is. Well, that's an interesting theory, since our galaxies all have a massive black hole in the center, which means their galaxies would have a massive sun in the center. Both are basically the same thing because they're just massive gravity things that holds the universe, I mean the galaxy, intact. In case you didn't know that, ladies and gentlemen, that's what the black hole actually does. It keeps our mass intact. It keeps us in that swirl spinning and keeps us from just all shooting out into the deep space and disintegrating into nothingness. So it worked the same way if it's true, but there's no way of knowing. I mean, it's
I
just
know.
and there's just unfortunately just no way of knowing. And
that's the problem. So much of this is theoretical. I'm going to show this one because people will love this picture. If I just lost it. Well, the science fiction people. Too bad. Where is it? I'm trying to find the one with Princess Leia. Remember when they? Oh, here it is. Let me get it. There we go. All right. Can you see that?
yep, I see it.
And remember, in the there's like a holographic plate, and when laser light, a coherent light shines through the holographic plate, and I won't go into how it's made with two different lasers. Princess Leia appears in 3 dimensions, and that's kind of cool. Oh, Joe, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
My
I
camera
saw
just
blank
flipped up, that's
screen.
all.
So now here's the interesting thing. Here's a question I have for you. All right, let me get a piece of paper that's blank. Let's say this is the hologram. I'm holding up a blank piece of paper that you shine the light through and you produce Princess Leia, okay? Now I rip it in half. Now I shine the light again. Do I get half a Princess Leia? Half
You
of
get
the
2
princess?
of them.
I get one complete, not as high resolution.
Oh, I thought you were split and got 2.
Now I do it again, a quarter paper. I shine a laser light, it's a whole Princess Leia. I can rip it up into a 1,000 pieces, and if I shine a laser light through this, I get the whole Princess Leia, which means every point on the laser plate encodes for the total hologram. Therefore, if our world is a 2-dimensional sphere, the universe, and light projects us and produces us in 3 dimensions, meaning if any of us could manipulate that 2-dimensional sphere, any point, we can control the entire universe and we could actually make changes. And that's what actually I believe magic is, being able to manipulate the 2-dimensional hologram that produces our 3-dimensional world. It's amazing the potential or the possibilities, but again, we don't have any concrete experiments. But that's kind of what I've been working with, and trying to find equations that would actually show this. But again, we're pretty far off. But interesting stuff, though.
It is. It is. Neil's writing in from New York. Is it Mr. Tyson, Neil? How you doing? What do you have for us, man? I see you've been typing away with that group over there. I got a little science group started on Facebook. What you got? Oh, so you're saying Einstein proves time travel is real with EMC equals squared. No, I don't agree with that, but I know what you're saying, because as you approach light speed, we slow down. So in other words, if you're in a craft traveling near the speed of light, technically you're slowing down in time because the universe itself is moving faster. Well, we don't actually know if that's true. I mean, a lot of Einstein stuff turned out to be right on the money, but not all of it. So we don't actually know if that's true. And then that's taking the effect that we don't figure out inertial dampeners that can cancel the effect of the drag, is what they're talking about. Because you have to remember, space has no friction in it. Whatever speed you achieve in space, you can maintain indefinitely. Because there's nothing to slow you down unless you get near a sun or something, and you can slingshot and even get more speed out of that. So the real problem is if I was a slingshot around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sun, let's say I achieved half light speed and slingshot around Jupiter, I'm at 2/3. I'd do it again and come back and sling again, I'm over light speed. And by the way, we do know now as a fact that light speed can be broken. Thanks to Jupiter, we have found out 2 things. Light can slow down below the speed of light and actually exceed the speed of light as it's being pulled past Jupiter. This is actually science that's been proven. So what does it mean? It means, yes, light speed is not, and here's another one for y'all. Before I was born, not much before I was born, they used to say that you would never be able to break the sound barrier, that it would kill you. Not only did we break it, these days we do Mach 40. Also, again, they said at Mach 5 we would be crushed. At Mach 10 we would be crushed. Like I just said, we do Mach 40 now when the shuttles re-enter, or when craft re-enters, anywhere from Mach 25 to Mach 40. So all of that turned out to be a big lie. None of that science was true. None of it. Even though there was brilliant scientists all over the world, not just one, all over the world were saying you could not do this, and we did it anyway. So it's going to be the same thing with light speed. We're going to achieve light speed either by using inertial dampers to cancel out the effects of EM equals 2, or we're going to do other things. But I know what you're saying. The closer you get, the more slows down. So if you're on a 5-year trip, say we're going to Proxima, so it's 4.4 light years, or Proxima Light 3.8 light years. Anyway, 4 light years out. So we're traveling 2/3 the speed of light for 4 years. On Earth, 114 years were passed, according to Einstein's theory. So that means, yeah, technically you did travel, because when you come back, another 114 years have passed. That's 218 years have passed in 8 years for you. So no one you know is alive. No one you even heard of is alive. Everything you understood is dead and gone. And it's a good chance in that trip that because of the time difference, that Earth will have developed a craft that actually goes faster than yours and will beat you to your destination. So it gets real iffy skippy when you start talking about that, because we don't actually know what the coalition drag is going to actually be. Technically, they shouldn't be any drag. And of course, Einstein theory also says that you can never achieve light speed because you can never get the power curve to get to it. It's infinite. Well, I don't think that's true. I bet you can achieve light speed with just nuclear reactors. I mean, just tack one up to a near explosion. I guarantee it'll send these small craft well past light speed. I've always said this, and I'm going to say it again tonight. Light speed will not be the problem for deep space travel. The problem is going to be is how you're going to see far enough ahead of you to travel at light speed. So if you're traveling at 144,000 miles per second, what's going to keep you from? Do you know a millimeter rock this big would rip through a ship, even if it was made out of something ungodly strong? At those kind of speeds, you're going to have types of shielding that can resist all of this. You're going to have sensors that can see out hundreds of thousands of light years ahead of you. Because if they can't, you might run into a sun, a meteor, a rock, dark matter, God knows, dark meteors. There's all kind of stuff in space that's dangerous. So without a way to see far enough ahead, well, Chris, we probably will go out and chart areas so we can travel faster. But meanwhile, you're not going to be able to just jump up to Mach 10 or Mach 20, or I should say warp 20, because you'll kill yourself. You've got to be able to see far enough ahead, and that's what the true trick's going to be. Inertial dampeners is something we're already working on developing. Once they're developed, it cancels out Einstein's theory altogether. There will be no coalition of drag. There will be no infinite power curve because there won't be anything pulling against it. So go ahead.
Yeah, I want to address that person's question too, because it was a good one. And actually, I did quite a bit of studying on the general and special theory of relativity. But I gotta tell him the typical science and engineering joke that E equals mc cubed for slow light. But I did research with an NSF grant in a superconductivity lab, who was the son of the famous Meissner. You heard of the Meissner effect? Mm-hmm. His son, Hans Meissner, was a full professor who I worked under in the superconductivity lab. And I know recently putting light and supercooling type temperatures does slow it up. And that's really interesting that we are able to actually manipulate the speed of light. Now, regarding going faster than the speed of light, it's very clear of Einstein's special and general theory of relativity equations. There's no way we can accelerate something faster than the speed of light. But again, physicists believe that particles known as tachyons, which I'm sure you heard on, they were created at the beginning of the universe, travel faster than the speed of light. So they were never accelerated past the speed of light, but existed at the creation of the universe, moving faster than the speed of light. And some people think there actually could be tachyons moving backwards in time. So the whole this whole area is just so fascinating, because what it does is it allows us to really contemplate the fabric of the universe. I think that's a book. I forgot who wrote that. Was that
Jeffrey? Tachyons, yeah, they're still theoretical. They haven't improved yet. But they're still theoretical. It's just like dark matter. But it's a good theory. It's not a bad.
I want to say something to students of physics and science, is that I criticize a lot of time that people put speculations and hypotheses out there without any fact, and that's fine. It's okay to speculate. That's how great discoveries were made. In fact, Einstein called his daydreaming thought experiments. he would daydream on what it would be like to ride on a light wave, and that's how he came up with his theories. But be very careful to all you students out there, and the new age people just drive me crazy with this. They take speculations and pure guesses and try to pan it off as fact. So make sure that if something is a fact, it's repeatable, it's mathematically explained, and you make predictions from it. So I just wanted to put that out. And we're not so concerned with the conservation of mass or energy. It's really information, because everything has information. And and about traveling in space, I think the way we'll travel is by folding space. Like you take a sheet of paper and, because we believe the universe could be folded. So to go around it would take longer than if you go straight through it, which people call wormholes. And I think that is a bigger potential for space travel. But Joe, you're right that the amount of energy and to bring something up even like 95% to the speed of light would be, with our technology, fairly impossible. But again, I've learned to never say impossible.
Not with inertial dampers. If you create a bubble around the craft, Einstein theory doesn't work anymore. It doesn't apply. You're outside of the universe, so it doesn't matter. His theory can exist all along. You're still going to move way faster than the speed of light. That's what current science is working on, by the way.
Well, the problem, what I've seen is the problem is the interface. What happens at the interface? How do you mathematically explain that? That's the big problem.
Yeah, well, no, actually, what their big problem is so much as they're pretty sure this is not that hard for them to develop. They've been developing it for a while now. The reason, I'm going to tell you the actual real reason inertial dampers were being invented. Because any kind of fast travel would squish a human against a wall instantly. Like, could you imagine a nuclear reactor charging up to 2/3 its power? Let's just say like 100 megaton blast. So you take a 1-ton ship and connect it to a megaton blast, it's going to easily exceed light speed. It may go way beyond light speed. But the problem is, without some kind of bubble around it, it will disintegrate long before it ever gets to light speed. It'll be dust. The whole thing's got to be shielded so that the people inside are safe and the ship can actually achieve light speed. Because if you don't have a force field reacting against Einstein's theory, special theory, then you're done. You're never going to get there. The energy will be unattainable. You'd have to tap the entire known universe just to even get close. And that's just not a feasible thing for any type of advanced race. So it's more important that we develop these. I mean, Bowen started working with this because Bowen was developing gravity drives and magnetic drives. And they realized that even in space, at certain speeds, we need these inertial dampers. Like if the ship's got to turn real fast, it would kill everybody on board. We also know that there's other things in space that can cause a coalition drag on a craft. So these will cancel out. So they already realized when they can cancel that out, it will also cancel out Einstein's theory. So it allows us to go much faster than the speed of light. But still, the problem with traveling at any light speed, let's say, all right, 10 times the speed of light will still take you almost a year to get to Proxima. Okay. And that's close. I mean, that's close. No, I'm sorry. At 10 times, it would take you 6 months to get to Proxima. And Proxima is only 3.88 light years alone. So let's say we want to go somewhere like Lyra, 100 light years out. It's going to still take you 10 years at 10 times the speed of light. So for light speed to even be theoretically really good for us to use, you're talking speeds 100 to 1,000 times faster than light just to get around our little galaxy. Now, if you want to go to Andromeda, oh no, you're going to need something that's going to go 1 billion times the speed of light to get there in any reasonable time. So those kind of things are kind of way out there. So what happens is we'll probably end up developing a 3-tier system. We'll have light speed for moving around inside of places nearby or hopping between solar systems and stuff like that. So it doesn't take years, it only takes days. But more than likely for really galactic travel across, like our universe now has been upgraded. It wasn't 100 light years across, now it's 160,000 light years across. So for us, even at light speed, it's 160,000. Even at 10 times, you guys, come on, what is that? 60,000 years? I mean, you're going to have to, even at 1,000, it's still, 60 years. So the problem here is it's not going to really be feasible. And the type of power you're talking about for something to travel 1,000 times the speed of light, it's going to be ridiculous. It's not that I don't think we can do it. I think antimatter or dark matter might even be the energies to use, but I really think what you're going to see us use antimatter for is ripping holes in time and space, or in space, because time really doesn't exist. Time is a theory, ladies and gentlemen. In case y'all didn't know that. For the universe itself, time does not exist as a coalescence. It just doesn't.
Time actually has to exist because time separates events. So that's how
No. That's for you. Time separates events.
No.
Linear
What I'm
thinking.
saying,
No, that's linear.
Okay,
The universe does not work in a linear fashion.
If you look at every equation in physics, for two events to occur, you have to have a variable of time. If there was no time, there would be no events in the universe. It wouldn't exist.
But I guarantee you the universe does not consider time to be anything.
Is there any other questions? Any other?
Because matter of fact, most of the physicists I know now do not consider time to be a real thing.
You have any other questions?
I don't know. They'll come up in a little while. They're off doing something
right now. The other question I was going to say, if you were stuck for 5 years in a spaceship, who would you want to be stuck with?
I want to be sleeping.
People always like, the other. How come we didn't get any questions about did we really land on the moon? I love that question because
anybody who listens to me is not even going to ask that.
Well, you know what? The reason I love that is one of my persons I worked on a secret project with was Colonel Jim Irwin of Apollo 15, who walked on the moon. And actually, 3 of the Apollo crafts put laser reflecting plates where they landed, the 3 different locations, which we know the coordinates, as you know, Joe. So if you shine a laser aimed at any of those locations, you'll get a reflection back. And my partner, Joe Parr, who passed away, was the first private individual to do that. And so the question is, if we didn't go to the moon, who put those 3 plates there?
I mean, we could have sent satellites and put mirrors down.
But it's interesting that we had those people that, I mean, I don't know, some of these theories are just so ridiculous, but
it's not. Well, people tell me all the time, well, you know why it's fake? Because it's 3 light sources. I said, let me tell y'all something. I said, if there wasn't 3 light sources, then it would be fake. I said, there should be 3 light sources. He's like, no, there shouldn't be 3 light sources. I said, you mean to think about it? I said, think hard. Why wouldn't there be 3 light sources? Because people forget there's Earth light. There's sunlight. There's a light from the lander, but there's also Earth light. Earth gives off light against the moon. And most people didn't realize that. And so, when you see those shadows, that's what it's from. And it's not even a hard thing to figure out. But the 2 biggest reasons, we went to the moon is, 1, Russia never busted us. If we didn't go to the moon, Russia and China would have been blasting our asses all. They never went to the moon.
And all the amateur astronomers.
And that's the other thing.
But the reflecting plates are the really basic thing. Exact coordinates.
I don't agree with that because you can drop a plate. We drop them on Mars all the time. We drop them on Mars all the time.
But then the craft went to the moon. I mean, that's really pushing it. Plus,
humans versus regular craft.
You can't orbit the moon and throw a plate and know exactly where it's going to land.
We do it on Mars all the time. We got global surveyor right around the moon doing it right now. The technology, we have easy technology to put mirrors
plus,
down.
I personally knew astronauts that I do cosmonauts.
I've interviewed several of them, and I've had lunch and dinner with several of them. That's not the issue, but that doesn't prove they went to the moon. Mirrors and astronauts do not prove they went to the moon because any of that can be a lie.
I would like
set that down.
I would like
major proof for going to the moon is the fact that 200,000 people from 61 countries tracked it.
And that's the problem with ufology. We don't track the UFOs out in space. They're all close to the Earth. Very few. And that's the big argument I have with ufologists. There's millions of amateur astronomers. Like you said, they would have be able to determine if there was a lift.
They can't even tell you when an F-117's flying around.
But
anything with stealth technology, you're not going to see.
The reflecting plates are
black against black is going to be
your argument. I'm sorry, doesn't hold water with the reflecting
plates. Oh no, look, John, look, just out of respect, I'm gonna let that slide because I can show you right now on Mars where there's 5 of them, and we had no astronauts on Mars.
Oh, you tell me, I'll have somebody shoot a laser and verify it. I know people at JPL.
Well, there's 5 of them on Mars right now. In case y'all noticed, ladies and gentlemen, the reason we put these mirrors on these planets.
The rover.
Yeah, but no man's been there. The argument isn't that we didn't go to Mars to the moon, John. The argument is that man didn't go to the moon. That's what the argument is. Not that we didn't go to the moon. That man didn't go to the moon.
So the idea
and setting down a satellite with a mirror on it and then blasted it off again. That's
Well,
child's. You've been
okay,
doing
then
that.
why not put the man in it? I don't know. Okay,
Well, I'm just saying that's what their argument is. I have no problem with we went to the moon, and there's lots of ways to know that we went to the moon. But the best one is to know how many people worked on the moonshot. There's no way you could have kept it a secret. It's impossible with all the people who stretched out across all those countries that tracked it. Because remember, once it went around the moon, you needed Australia to live.
Then I ask you, why is 99% of all the UFOs that are seen and tracked within the Earth's atmosphere? Less than 1% are tracked outside.
First off, there ain't very many UFOs ever seen. That's just old
were tracked outside.
You're not going to see it now. But in all fairness, we do have 2 spy satellites that have captured them. We have 4 shuttles. We've got about 2 dozen astronauts. Including, one of the most famous astronauts ever, Chandler, who was a space shuttle pilot. He made a video of all the UFOs he's seen in space.
What? One video, and it still hasn't been shown to be authentic. It could be 100 explanations.
Oh, so you're no.
Come on, Joe.
They proved those were authentic. No, even the astronaut. Look, just to help you out, John. Even the astronaut said himself, along with his entire crew of 7 people, said, "Oh my God, no! This is something of high intelligence around our craft that's been videoed."
Another scientist said there was ice condensation. So I mean,
ice condensation don't move on us, John. It don't change direction.
Why are they?
That's a bogus argument, man.
Tell me why there are not more UFO observations in outer space, less than 1%. If they're coming in from extraterrestrial places, they would be concentrated outside.
I just busted that argument for you 5 minutes ago. They can't even see the X-117s and the B-1s flying around here. They can't even track DARPA's plane that's up there. There's no astronomer anywhere to track DARPA's plane.
Joe, where were you in 1980? They mapped out the surface of Venus with a satellite, okay?
Look, listen, John. They can't even get DARPA's plane. There's no amateur astronomer, not even a real astronomer, can lock on the DARPA's jet up there that's flying around the Earth right now. Been up there for 200 and some days. No astronomer down here has got it on film. Tell me why. Tell me why. Because you can't see it. And you can't use a telescope to see that close into Earth. It doesn't work.
But it's too
blown up. Satellites get them all the time. There are actually millions, hundreds of thousands of photos of UFOs taken by satellites.
The ones that I know, some of them they've caught, but like I said, if you start putting the numbers together, it's very few. So
it's not. That's where you're wrong. It's not. I can think of 2 dozen satellites right now that have gotten multiple pictures of UFOs.
Okay, but we may be talking of hundreds there and millions here on Earth. It doesn't make sense.
Millions here on Earth.
The numbers
right now on Earth, if average year on Earth,
do they fly by stealth and then they enter the Earth's atmosphere and expose themselves? I mean,
they don't expose themselves. Most people will never see. Most UFOs that are reported today are not anything of extraterrestrial origin. It's usually X-117 or things flying around because ET's not that stupid. You're trying to judge an extraterrestrial race by us. We're morons. They're not. If you can cross interstellar distances, you're not a moron. And you're not going to leave your craft vulnerable to us morons on this planet, period. That's just good science. And we do it today. The Chinese can't see when we're flying over their country, neither can the Russians. And we're just little peons. Think about it, races that can cross deep space. It's just not even an argument. That's a wasted argument.
Well, I agree with you there. I believe there's something that we're observing and catching on radar and people are seeing, but what are they? I think we still don't know. Like, remember we talked about the Foo Fighters a couple of weeks ago. We still don't know what they are.
It doesn't really matter what they are. All you can do is prove that
could be artifacts of
intelligent control. That's all it matters. Is that it's a technology that's under intelligent control that we don't possess. So that's the question you got to answer. You've got all of World War II, every Air Force flying during World War II described the Foo Fighters and described them the same way. Very advanced, very fast, did all kind of maneuvers, definitely under intelligent control. These are some of the best observers in the world seeing these things. So there's no doubt that whatever this was, none of us possessed. And it was a technology far beyond anything. We can't even replicate it today.
We don't even know
70 years later, we can't replicate
it. What if it was an artifact of the radar system that we were using at that time? I mean,
because the Germans and
we don't know.
Most people didn't even have radar. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm saying
only the Americans had radar. And England barely had radar. I mean, they barely had radar.
Well, maybe it was so crude that it produced, phantom effects.
That wouldn't explain the ones in the Pacific. It wouldn't explain the ones over Germany. It wouldn't explain the ones over Russia or Australia. It wouldn't explain any of those. And none of them people had radars. That's like when people say, oh, but radar brought down.
Well, we're not talking about thousands of pilots that saw. We're talking about
we're talking about, no. Oh no, just in the American Air Force alone, more than 300 pilots reported it. The German Air Force, about the same. From what I understood last time, about 5,000 pilots, not just pilots, seen them. People operating PT boats, people operating deep sea boats, people operating carriers.
Are you talking about Foo Fighters or?
Yeah, they used to buzz the carriers in the ships.
I've never heard those numbers, so I'd like to see those statistics. That's interesting.
Foo Fighters have been around for a long time, and they're not just limited to the past. They're still seen today.
Right, but the question is, what are they? They could be an artifact of something of our technology.
No, first off, we have no technology that can do that. Nothing. There's not, especially in the 40s and 30s. There's nothing we had that could, even today, there's nothing that could even come close to the movement of these. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, there's videos.
Well, if they were produced by a Phantom, if they're Phantom lights, then they would have.
They're solid. They would move the craft as they buzz by.
What if they were reflection?
How would they physically move a craft, John, if they were a reflection?
Because
people would tell you, they would tell you as they would zip by, it would create a force.
Reflections don't follow the laws of gravity.
Reflections are reflections of light, and they're not going to have any physical form, and they're not going to cause a reaction against the craft. These cause physical reactions. So no, it's not a reflection. A reflection is not going to cause a physical reaction.
I'm saying there's a lot of different possibilities what they could be caused by.
There's not really that many possibilities they can be. They can be demonic or they can be extraterrestrial.
That's a good point too. How do we know they're not a spiritual? Like look at the Marian apparitions, right? I mean, same kind of thing. I
pretty much rule out they're not spirits.
Here's what I'm saying, Joe. Which I really like to warn people to be careful of. When you observe something that we can't explain, we can't just go to one explanation and say, most likely it's this. There may be a dozen that we haven't thought of.
That's the problem. This is a 70-year-old phenomenon that's been examined by at least 200,000 or 300,000 people. And the overall majority agree. This is something that's very advanced, under control of someone who does not live here, that's either visiting here or surveying our things. This was somebody who wanted to watch our wars. They wanted to watch. They didn't want to participate.
It was a ball of light following an airplane.
Some of these things were the size of the aircraft. Several of these planes were engulfed in them. I don't even know. You need to read about Foo Fighters, man. You are way uneducated on Foo Fighters.
Well,
you need to read up on it. There was way more to Foo Fighters than what you think was going on.
A lot of it is testimony, and testimony can be
video. That's what I'm trying to say. And I just said this a minute ago. There is gun camera footage, both American, German, and Russian, of the Foo Fighters. And then there's carrier footage as well, where these things were tagging them. They were coming in the land. They would come in behind them, level out behind them. The guy out there running the pole would pop the light, and then the thing would lift up, come over, and hover over the plane as it came in and landed. And when it came down over the plane, it would push the plane left or right because of the physical force exerted by this object moving. So it had physical force. This is something that means it was a solid object that was moving at speeds that we can't produce today.
Well, like I said, artifacts and reflections could move faster than the speed of light. They can just move instantaneously.
Not many signs around today.
I can show you. You take a light and you move it through space, and all of a sudden, you move it from one planet to another.
You keep doing arguments that are bogus. Light has no physical force.
Here's the problem. You're dealing with a lot of testimony without. You may have a couple videos.
You don't have to go. I keep trying.
How many do you have?
You want to be hard-headed. Okay, there are tons of video footage of Foo Fighters. Tons of it.
I've seen video footage of Foo Fighters.
Okay, you can tell when you're looking at them. You can tell it's not.
I am not very impressed, and I feel they could be produced by some kind of artifact, reflection.
You've never really seen a real video of a Foo Fighter. There's a bomber coming out, right? The bomber's coming in. There's 6 bombers behind him. This thing comes in underneath and lifts up. As it goes under the plane, it lifts up. The plane just lifts back up. It actually pushed the plane up into the air, John. There's no way you can say it's a reflection of light of any kind. This is something physical. Not only did it physical, but it possessed a physical force that could move a craft without damaging it. We can't do that today. There's just no way to do that. Not just that. I mean, like I said, you had the ones that used to buzz. The radars kept going down over the UK as these things would just kind of float along as they went by. It would knock out their radar. It could jam radar systems. Right. It's a technology, and nobody even argues. Any pilot who's ever seen these will tell you the same thing.
I know.
These are physical technology of something far more advanced than us.
What I've learned was when I did studies.
And all the other Air Force always thought it was the other people.
And just a general statement regarding a lot of this. there's a lot of claims people make, and then when you go back to the original investigation and you interview the witnesses, you find out a lot of it was exaggerated. It was imagined.
These are not average
like
people. These people were trained to
It's called
observe.
false memory,
But it's not. And these are not everyday Joe Blow driving a taxi cab. These are fighter pilots. And I worked with fighter pilots. They're extremely observant. They're not going to lie. They're not going to bullshit you. They're going to tell you exactly what happened and how it happened. That's what they're going to tell you. They're not going to fuck you around. They're going to say, look, I was there. This is what happened. If you don't like it, too bad, but this is what happened. And then, and wait, and it's not even just one of them. I mean, there's hundreds of them. They just, they were flying in groups. They were flying in formations. I mean, you can't get away from these arguments because you have experienced pilots with experienced crews that have been bombing the shit out of Germans for 3 years. They know everything flying in the sky because it's their freaking job.
Let me just suggest people look up these terms. That could, susceptibility, a lot of this is used in a court of law, activation of associated information, incorporation of misinformation, and source misattribution. I can give you a bunch of other, actually Sigmund Freud was the first to investigate this whole thing of false memory.
You can bring up Sigmund. He was the biggest moron that ever lived on the planet. Nobody today believes anything that Sigmund has said.
All I'm saying is,
wait, let's not finish.
False memory is historical. It goes back 100 years, Joe.
Let's not forget, psychology is considered what? A pseudoscience. It's not even considered a real science.
But those points are the problem in testimony.
Actually, it's not at all. I told you that psychology is a pseudoscience. So how can you trust anything?
So when you quote one pilot or a couple, I mean, I don't know, if it's accurate, what do you call it? Memory, visualization, misinterpretation.
Well, let me tell you, under your understanding, the United States better never put its fighter pilots up because we're going to all die. If they're that ignorant and that stupid, like what you're saying, we'd have never won World War II. We'd have lost.
Well, they're not infallible.
They're not, no, John. These guys were hyped. They're on the ball, buddy. Their adrenaline's pumping.
Well, a lot of
not only that, their senses are so far hyped up from either just the bombing or headed to the bombing that they're not missing anything.
I don't mean this to be negative, but people are people, and some of the pilots for airlines.
First off, people are not people. That's a bogus statement all around. Some people are brilliant, some people are ignorant, some people have nerves, some people don't. You have to go through special courses to be a pilot in the military, especially a fighter pilot.
100%
pilots. Psychological exams. You've got to be tested. You got to be at your top. Your physics is not.
But you're not saying 100% of the pilots 100% of the time are accurate, right? You're not saying that, right?
Every fighter pilot I ever met that gave me a description of an object.
I would disagree. I'd say maybe 95%, but I would not go to the 100%. And again, you don't know. Pilots have been found with alcohol levels in their blood.
It doesn't matter. There's too many of them, and it's 7 air forces. You got 7 different air forces who were both against fighting each other.
Well, then
giving you identical. You got the German pilot saying the exact same thing as the American pilot.
We're not going to solve this, but the point I'm saying is that
you're not going to solve it. It's already been solved as far as I'm concerned.
There's going to be a dozen alternative explanations for this, and you can't
There's
just
no alternative. No one to date has given a real alternative explanation. No one. All the pilots say the same thing. It's not ours. It's not from here, and it travels too fast for any craft. Most of them were clocked at speeds excess of Mach 60. We can't go that fast, even in 2020.
Well,
these things could stop completely. Go from Mach 60.
I can't think of an example, but if you go back 100 years, there are many phenomena that people would have said the same thing, and now we can explain it.
And 100 years ago, people were far more ignorant than they were during World War II.
Maybe that will happen now. That these 50 years from now or 10 years, somebody will say,
what you should really ask, John, the question you should be asking is where are the Foo Fighters? How come they only show up in hot zones?
Well, that's why I suspect that is an artifact of the equipment that was used in the planes at that time. It's almost an argument in my favor because.
Well, why did they show up? Why did they show up in Vietnam? Why did they show up in Korea?
Why aren't they? When's the last one? Okay, here's a question. When's the last Foo Fighter that was observed? What year?
It was in 2010 on the anniversary of the 50th year when it showed up in the.
Why? Where they been for the last 9-10 years?
They don't have to be around. They only seem to observe. They only seem to want to observe us in combat situations. They don't seem to be interested in anything else.
Oh, okay. So
that's the only time they show up, and they show up in different air forces. They only tend to show up. Well,
did
wait,
they
let me
show up
rephrase that.
over
They
3
do
Mile
show up in
Island?
hot.
I don't
They
think
do
so.
show up in 3 Mile Island. They got them on video,
Okay,
hovering over the main stack.
but I mean,
Not just
there
that, they got them
were a
at
lot
Chernobyl,
of
and they got
nuclear.
them
What
at
about during the Cuban Missile Crisis and things like that? I could probably come up with 50 historical events that are more important.
I can
that
find
they've
about
ever
40
shown up.
accounts during the missile Cuban crisis, by the way.
You know,
There's no war that's happened on this planet that Foo Fighters hadn't been seen. And it's not just that. They've been seen in earthquakes, they've been seen near nuclear reactors, they've been seen near missile sites. Matter of fact, the ones that shut down the missile site in 1963 were Foo Fighters. There was a couple of them that
well,
came.
we don't know that.
No, that's what that. I'm only telling you what the general in charge said. That's what he said. He said, I had seen him in 1950, and he said, then I seen him again in 1963 or 1967 when they shut down the nuclear facility. No one can argue the facility was shut down. Even the government does not deny that the entire missile base was shut down, and not just one.
But we don't know if the Foo Fighters shot him down.
Yeah, well, when they showed up, the thing shut down. So we do kind of know.
Well, a lot of things happen that are synchronicity. Any other questions?
It happened in Russia too. This isn't just localized to America.
Well, is there any other questions about?
Which proves it's not from us, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Anytime they showed up in Germany and Russia, the United States, France, England, Australia, it showed right there that they're not from this planet because they're not.
Well,
they're not.
I'm not denying.
They would have picked a side.
Okay, let me make this clear. Okay, I am not denying these people aren't seeing something. I'm denying that we don't know what they are. We can't.
No. We're denying that you don't know what they are.
Well, you can't.
Don't speak. No, I can. I can easily do it. You just want to argue because you don't want to be wrong. That's all that is.
As a scientist, if you know what they are, you can recreate them, right?
Actually, you can recreate them. Just create a disaster event and they'll show up. It's that easy. And it happens all the time.
Well,
so because I had forgot about that. So the last time that I know they were seen was during Fukushima. I had forgot about Fukushima. That's the last time I know they had been seen. There was about a dozen of them had been seen on 3 different days over Fukushima. They were there, I guess, checking out how we were going to react to this disaster. But they were there. And even the Japanese government mentioned them. The president of Japan talked about these weird balls because he called America.
Well, you told me you don't believe in extraterrestrials. Where are the Foo Fighters coming from then?
I never said I don't believe in extra. I guarantee
you said that before. You said you didn't believe UFOs are extraterrestrial origin. I thought that's what
I never said that. No. First off, let's clarify. UFO only means unidentified flying object. That could be any damn thing. I don't even use the term UFO hardly at all because I don't believe it means anything.
The objects,
flying objects, which could be any damn thing in the sky at any time.
Do you believe they're of extraterrestrial origin? That is intelligent life from another planet.
All I can say is that it's intelligence, and it's not intelligence from here because it does not interact with us personally.
But you're not saying for sure it's from another galaxy, world.
No, it could be from another world. It could be from another dimension. I can't rule out that it could be
Foo Fighters is from another dimension, or like
That's
I said,
the operation. It's still the same thing. It's still alien.
I want to see evidence because, like I said, 100 years ago, there were strange things that people didn't know, and then we discovered, as our science invented, that certain things were artifacts, certain things were natural, and they actually were not of supernatural or unusual origin.
Well, I find that most supernatural stuff I find is bogus, and I find that most UFO stuff I find that is bogus. The whole reason I got into all of this stuff is because it's the cases like the Foo Fighters that you can't explain away. Those are the important ones. There's nothing any scientist today has ever said that can explain away the Foo Fighters. And it irritates a lot of them because they're still trying, even 70 years later, they're still trying to explain them away, but they can't. These are technologies that cannot be reproduced in 2020. They were flying for at least, well, you know what? You want me to tell you the first known case of the orbs? 1580 in London, downtown. There's a guy, actually an artist out there, who documented the whole thing. Not only did he document it, but the news guy came out and documented the whole thing. So there's an article about these orbs, these things flying around through London, and there's an artist who actually drew them. They came through. And what was interesting about that was
not great testimony. And
well, not also, saying what happened, but still, it's
maybe it was the fake news at the time, right? I mean,
it's fake news because
it's like the cathode.
It doesn't mean it was Foo Fighters.
It's like the cathode ray tube in the pyramids. They resembled lotus leaves too. But all the Egyptologists who want to show alien origin. We'll say, oh, that's a cathode ray tube, and it's not. I mean, this happens all the time. We interpret these things in terms of our culture.
Well, the one with the long shoe with the snake in it, with the
that.
thing connected to it, it does look like a tube with a wire connected to it. You can't really argue that, even if it isn't. That's what it looks like.
I can show you a dozen things like that people attribute.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm not saying what it is. I'm just saying that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know,
but,
and you can't, wait, let me finish. You can't disprove that's not what it is. That's the real problem here when it comes to Egyptology. You can say it's not that, but you can't prove it.
People had drug trips even in those days too, so they could have seen.
You got to be able to prove that's not what it is to discontinue the theory, and you can't. That's the real problem when it comes to Egyptology. You can't, and there's some other weird stuff when it comes to Egyptology that people have theories of that can't be disproved. They can't be proved either, but they can't be disproved. So the real problem comes to all of this stuff. When you can't prove something, you can't disprove it. There's nobody who's right or wrong.
Well, that's why I like
fighters, though, you can actually prove the existence of the fruit fighters, the way they behave, and that they're intelligent. So there's no doubt that you can prove all of that. It's already been proven that they move under intelligent command. And today, if it was today's world, I would have said these were, you know how we do mass orbs now, the guy who invented makes the drones all go together and can fly a couple hundred drones at a time. It would have been that kind of technology. But the problem is, it's still far beyond anything we have available today.
Well, that's the problem.
When I've never heard of them seen in space. The orbs.
Our technology
I've never heard of them seen in space.
Our technology should have been advancing. Our space program should have been advancing instead of standing still for decades, and we would be in a lot better situation.
They were told, stay your little asses at home, humans. You're not allowed out here yet. You're morons.
Who knows what? You know what's funny?
I'm gonna say this right now, John. Look, it'll probably happen after I die, but look, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'll be 100% right. When this planet unites, you watch. Within 5 years of the uniting this planet, we'll be in deep space and we'll have made outright.
I hope. I think I have a lot of faith.
Because right now, there's nobody letting us out of this solar system.
I have a lot of faith.
I would never let a planet like this into deep space. You've got 200 government, 50 of them got nukes. No way. You don't deserve to be in space.
I like SpaceX. This is an interesting sideline. My buddy who was a Secret Service agent to 4 presidents, I asked him because he was right in the White House. Have you ever heard any discussions of ufology or anything like that? And he was actually, boy, the stories are amazing. He said he never heard one story, overheard anything, any of the presidents, and according to him, going to 4.
Jesus, he needs to buy a hearing aid. We've had actual presidents talk about it on TV.
Well, what I'm saying is that, there doesn't seem like there's anything that is so totally
They must have been
secret.
using him for disinformation because Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, that's recent.
Well, he had a psychic too. Reagan had a psychic too. So, I mean, let's say
the problem being here is
they saw something, Joe. They saw something. Who the hell cares that they were president? They saw something. That doesn't give them more credibility as a witness.
No, but it does say that the presidents had an interest in it. We know Bill Clinton had a major interest in it because he tried for years. He was actually told, and this pissed him off so bad. First, Hillary started. They wanted to know what was at Area 51, and the government said, you don't need to know, period. You don't have the security because president or not, a first-term president is never told anything because you don't know if they're going to make second term, and there's no reason to tell them. Even second-term presidents are very limited to certain technologies they can't be told because they can't be trusted.
Well,
they might like Reagan when senile. That's not an assumption. That's a fact. No, that's a fact. That's not an assumption.
A president has never said that. What? Tell me one president that
Bill
said
Clinton did. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
No, did he say?
God, John,
hold it, Joe. Did Bill Clinton say he was deprived of top secret information of any kind?
He pissed off about it. He threw a fit. They told him he did not have the clearance to know. He's launched a big project. He even got what's the guy, the Hughes family involved to try to get this information. The Hughes family, with all the money used. So he got their family involved. He was even dealing with one of them directly. They had big meetings at Camp David. This was well documented. And the thing about it is they told him, you do not need to know. This is not something that you're going to deal with or is even going to bother you in your presidency.
It probably had to do something with spying.
Oh no, he was only asking about extraterrestrials. He was not asking about anything else.
Here's the thing. After you get the top secret, what it's called is, and we had a discussion on this, there are higher classifications, but it's called compartmentalization. meaning
I have
that
a class 10. I got one of the highest clearance on the
that
planet.
doesn't matter. If you're not permitted to go into certain classification areas, you can't do it even if you have top secret. I know
Okay.
this is a fact.
Let me explain something to you. Actually, no, you don't. Okay? You don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe been asking about a spy, maybe a
He
spy.
was not. John, I'm trying to explain to you. This is Doc. I'm giving you his words, John. Just stop, okay? You make yourself look bad here.
Well, thank you.
This is the President of the United States on television talking about his government would not allow him to see information on extraterrestrials. That's a quote. Okay. Well, he said this, and then his wife, Hillary Clinton, came right behind and said it again.
He assumed it was extraterrestrials, so they must have told him something.
Assume anything.
How
You're
can
not
he say
listening.
that?
You're not listening. All he did was ask to see anything extraterrestrial related. He didn't say anything. He didn't even ask.
Right.
And they told him, you do not need to know about the ETs. It's not anything that's going to apply to your presidency in your lifetime.
But it could have been a spy information.
It was not, John. It was a specific question. He didn't ask about spy equipment. He didn't ask about jets. He didn't ask about anything but extraterrestrial.
They didn't say to him, we have extraterrestrial.
Because you want to try to win this argument, you're going to try to middle around, but that's not what went on.
No.
You've got the president. You got Ronald Reagan talking about it too.
Let me get my question in. Did they say to him, we have extraterrestrial information we're not giving you access to?
Yes,
no.
That's what they
said. The question you have about extraterrestrials, we're not allowing you to see.
That's not what he said. He said, and I just quoted it to you, and you're still going to go try to change it. He said, I want to know what we have on extraterrestrials. And he said, you do not need to know about the extraterrestrials. It's not going to be applied to your presidency. That's what he said.
Who told him that?
That was whoever was in charge at the time, the Minister of Defense or whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. He told him you did not need to know. It's not something. This is somebody who had been serving in this position for about 8 years. The only one that we know for sure that actually knew what was going on was Daddy Bush, and he's now dead because he served as head of the CIA, and then he served as vice president, and then he served as president. He knew what was going on. That's why Ronald Reagan was always going around saying, you know, what happens if we get invaded? Why don't we build Pine Gap? Why don't we build the Hart facility? Why don't we build these giant lasers? Which, by the way, all three Reagan did. All three of them Reagan did.
By the way, you know why?
Was scared that somebody was coming for our planet. This is the president of the United States, most powerful man in the world, scared.
This whole thing is the biggest PSY operation a country ever.
Well, that don't explain 2,000 years ago. Then. And it don't explain how it happened in all the rest of the countries in the world.
The government, and you know, I was talking to certain people, want the people to believe the government is covering up extraterrestrial visitation. It's a psychological warfare that's going on since Roswell.
I have more connections in the government than you do, and ain't none of them saying that.
I really doubt it.
Oh, I don't doubt it, not even a little bit, my friend. You forget what I did in the service, my buddy.
Well, I'm saying now, maybe 20 years ago, but not now.
Oh yeah, definitely now. Come on, dude. Senator McDonald came and picked me up at my house and brought me out to discuss UFOs.
When was that?
No, it was about 8 or 9 years ago. Oh no, it was about 14 years ago. I'm sorry. Before he died, as a matter of fact.
I mean, maybe you do. I don't think that matters so much, but my information is that's a very recent information that
anybody knew.
It's a big psychological warfare operation.
That doesn't explain Australia. It doesn't explain Brazil. It doesn't explain Hawaii. It doesn't explain Russia. It doesn't explain China. It doesn't explain 100 years ago. It doesn't explain 500 years ago. It doesn't explain 2,000 years ago. This isn't a new phenomenon. We tell everybody all the time, if you want to learn about ufology, start in the past and work your way forward. This has been around as long as man's been around.
Well, and that's the real problem. We don't know what it is.
It can't be a psyop because who was doing psyops 5,000 years ago? Nobody.
Well, we don't know what they are, where they're coming from.
Wait, I forgot something else I got to tell you about the Foo Fighters while I'm thinking about it. So in England, not in England, in Germany, there's a cave that dates back 52,000 years. Inside of it, there's some pictures on the wall. I love these. So it's like, I forgot what it's like, 6, 7, 8 deer walking. They got them like walking space. And then as you go down, there's some more deer. And then these 3 disc things sitting over the top of them. As you go to the next picture, the discs are sitting there and there's a beam coming down hitting the one. When you go to the next one, the deer is gone. This is actually on a wall. Not just there. It's also in America. The almost identical picture. The only difference was they had buffalo instead of deer. And then you find it again in South America. And these are 5,000 to 55,000 years old. There's no doubt that these guys seen something flying in the sky. And more importantly, that there's throughout our entire history, people have been seeing stuff flying around the sky. Well, until 150 years ago, we didn't have the ability to fly.
But we don't know what they are. That's what I'm saying.
If they're under intelligent control,
everything is an assumption that they're intelligent, that they're from outer space, based on observation.
That's not an assumption. It's easy to prove intelligence. Intelligent control is an easy thing to prove. That's not a hard thing.
Unless it's an artifact. Unless it's an artifact that's obeying laws of the object that's being produced by, which is not intelligent.
All right. So the thing pulls in front of the craft and stops. Then it goes down, then it goes up, then it comes over, then it comes under, then it comes around, then it loops.
I see reflections.
That's not a reflection because it's moving the craft as it's doing.
I mean, okay,
maybe keep forgetting that
maybe the source is something. The source could be something of the plane itself. Those were basic primitive technologies at that time. We didn't know a lot about.
Why is it happening to F-20s?
It didn't. Okay, I don't know the percentage, but maybe there is a commonality, like certain. You're into electronics. You know certain things with crystals and tubes and integrated circuits.
We do not have hologram technology today that could reproduce that, John. Not even today do we have hologram technology. We don't have nothing that can produce that.
And hologram, of course we can. Are you kidding me?
The best hologram that I've seen came out of Area 51 when they put the Indian in the sky. That's the best thing we have. That's the state of the art, top of the line. There is nothing better than that, and that cannot do what the Foo Fighters did.
Well,
it's just not. And besides that, you're talking about things that are happening over other countries. We can't go over other countries and do stuff. It's an act of war. Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to remember, this is not a local American thing. Okay. This is a worldwide phenomenon that happens in every country.
Maybe our level of proof to believe something is different, and what we require is different. Simple as that.
People with closed minds have a hard time with these things.
You know, it's like UFOs. I would want a piece that I could test and find an element or an isotope not of this world, and nobody has come up with one yet.
That's not even true. That's not even true. There have been on 5 occasions.
If there was, I spoke to a guy a former NSA guy. He said if that was true, that would be on every news station within an hour.
He's a former NSA guy's moron. You can contact MIT.
You're telling me that if a lab came out with an isotope or element that was not of this world, and scientists looked at it, it would be on every news station across the globe.
This has been on television, and the government has talked about this.
What bullshit science they're doing. Okay? They never do it.
You're calling MIT bullshit science. Oh my God, John. I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Let's just move on to a different subject. If you're calling MIT bullshit, I don't want to see
MIT come out and show me a molecular isotope.
They're posted to the web even today. You know how they got there? Dr. Roger Lear retrieved these from individuals and brought them to MIT. MIT said this: the first 3 pellets they organized.
Send me the data. You never did.
This is a quote. I ain't telling you shit. You go find it yourself. This is a quote. These materials are not from this planet and have never been on this planet. Even though the material itself was on the periodic table.
I had a meteorite with materials that aren't on this planet, but they were naturally occurring, and they form different types of configurations. But
how they get in human bodies?
But they didn't form different isotopes or molecules.
They form in human bodies. That's bullshit. You know that's bullshit when you're saying it. There's none of these shits are just forming in human bodies, and they're not just forming in human bodies in the same places. Okay,
I got a printout from the government of not the government of the lab, pages of what the composition of the this moon meteorite I have is, and there are things in there that say unidentified, but that doesn't mean they're extraterrestrial or they're life systems. So the point being is, an isotope, a molecule that we didn't create, that is not of this earth, has not ever showed up. If it did, it would be on every news service across the country.
Okay, think about what you just said. That's one of the most moronic statements I've ever heard you say. First off, how many elements did the periodic table start out with?
Those are all.
Just answer the question. Answer the question. How many elements did the
periodic table, Joe?
How many elements did it start out with?
Joe, those 103, the last one.
Okay, let me ask you a question, John. Let me just ask you a question. Created in the lab. John. Are the periodic table today the same as it was in 1940?
No, because we created these different.
You don't know that. You don't know if that wasn't a technology that was
obtained from somebody.
You're assuming assumption. That's an assumption. You do not know that. You were not there when it was created, so you do not know that. That's an assumption.
I mean, come on.
And you act like people don't lie. You just got through telling people lie now, and people don't lie.
Okay,
you got to have it one way or the other, man. Come on.
Let me just say we have 93 natural occurring elements. Then the ones that go up to 103 and beyond were synthesized in nuclear reactors, and they have like microsecond half-lives. So we made those. None of those are from outer space or unknown. We synthesize those. Pick up any physics textbook or chemistry textbook.
An assumption. You're still making an assumption. Besides, there's 118.
What assumption? What am I making?
There's 118 on the periodic table. Start over, not 103.
Well, but actually, there's more.
Okay? And you don't know where those 18 came from. You do not. You weren't there when it was done. You don't. I'm asking. Did you see it happen? Did you physically see it happen? You did not. Now you're lying. Now you're lying.
Public information. Just you can search on the internet.
John, everything is public information, but everything that's public isn't true. We already know the government lies out its ass.
What's 103, Lorenzi? And I can't remember. Go look at number 3. Look at the lab, the nuclear reactor that synthesized it, and you can pull up all the data for every one of those elements.
Yeah, after the fact. That's after the fact.
We made them. We made
everything you just said is after the fact. You were not in the lab when it was created, so you do not know. This could have been an element that was retrieved somewhere, and then they got to put it public, so they just make it out, write it out, and say, "Hey, this is how we found it." But you do not know that's how it happened. You don't know.
I think
can't prove it, and you don't know.
One scientist have difficulty finding one scientist agreeing with that, but anyway.
Why? Scientists don't lie, or scientists don't do what they're told so they can keep their grants. Get the shit out of here with that. Well, I've had major scientists on here tell you they will lie to keep their
30 years, since nuclear reactors. So, and part of
so you're making an assumption that every element that we have, man created, and nobody else interfered or gave them to us. That's a big damn assumption.
Because I want evidence to show that it wasn't.
I want evidence. I want you to prove that every element. Okay. I want you to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that every element.
Well, let me answer your question. Let me answer your question. You want to prove? You can find the 93 natural occurring elements in nature. Okay, if you go around, you can actually.
But that still don't mean that they went and found them. That doesn't prove that somebody didn't tell them they existed. According to Galileo himself, he was told stuff.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just telling you what he said himself. He's one of the most brilliant people on the planet. Okay. He says himself.
This bottle of water was laid here by aliens. Okay, that's basically.
I'm not saying that it was laid here by aliens. You're making an assumption. How freaking demon could have told them about it? You're just making an assumption that there was no other way to get that information. That's shame on you. That's being closed-minded.
Well, all I'm saying is that every element that we have is either naturally occurring or was man-made to a nuclear reactor and the ones that were man-made.
Again, you're making an assumption.
They have microsecond half-lives. So they're
really not. You got to be there to make that to prove that, and you weren't. So you might as well just move on from that because you can't prove it.
All right.
It's you can't prove that somebody did not tell these individuals about these elements. You can't. Even Einstein admitted to the fact that there are something going on because some things that have been happening doesn't make science sense. You got to take it for what it is. But he's not the only scientist.
Any other questions? Any other questions? I wanted to get back to the Mandela effect. Any other questions?
Actually, Chris is like, Mandela effect my ass. He don't even believe it. He's like, he doesn't believe it. He says he thinks it's just ignorant people. You could be right. You could be right.
Read his question again. I missed that. I'm sorry.
No, he said he doesn't believe in a Mandela effect. He said it wasn't a question. It was a statement. He said he doesn't believe in a Mandela effect. He thinks it's bullshit, and he thinks it's just ignorant people. He said, you ever seen a cop line up and 10 people who witness the same scene, all 10 of them give you a different description?
UFOs, but no, those people are all accurate, right?
What are you talking about? John, what are you talking about, UFOs? What does UFOs got to do with the Mandela effect? It has nothing to do with it. We're talking about the Mandela effect.
Okay,
so I know, Steve. I agree. Look, they booing you right now. They booing you. I know. I'm with y'all.
Screw up.
You can't win this argument because you're trying to do whatever you can. I agree. That's hard-headed stubbornness is what that is. That's exactly what that is.
By the way, I tend to favor the psychological explanation at this point too, because, like I said, as a scientist, I really would like to see. I could mention a comic book with Bernstein Bears or a videotape or some kind of material crossover. Unless that could, now the other possibility is maybe it's impossible for material to cross from one. What I want to mention too is if people want something fun, on Amazon Prime, there's a series called The Man in the High Castle. Did you see that, Joe? The Man in the High Castle. It's actually about an alternative universe where the Nazis win the war. And it's one of the most amazing series. It's great. It's about the Mandela. Actually, it is more like the Mandela effect. and parallel. It's called The Man in the High Castle on Amazon Prime.
Chris, no, I agree with you, Chris. When it comes to any eyewitness, I've always been anti-eyewitness because I've watched too many times, from UFOs to crime scenes to all sorts of things, ghosties, whatever you want to see. If there's 20 people or 10 people there, odds are you're never going to get an exact. You might get 2 or 3 that might be real close, but usually it's going to be different.
Okay,
because we let our own views affect what we see, unfortunately.
And Chris, let me give this to Chris again. This is in psychology. When a person recalls something that did not happen or recalls it differently, there's a list of like 20 things that it could be. Oops, here goes my microphone. I have it with sticky tape.
When you get into mass groups like that, that means something happened. It just means people didn't see it the same.
But I mean, there's terms called susceptibility, activation of associated information, incorporation of multi-information, source misattribution. I made a whole list of this because I thought this could all apply to the Mandela effect, misinformation effect, which is really false memory. So yeah, I mean, in fact, that's all lawyers are really familiar with this in the court of law. And so that is the question. And there's also the suggestion, like, let's say there was an accident, but there was no stop sign. And I say to you, Joe, did you go through the stop sign? Or tell me about the stop sign. You may then recall it, even though you didn't see it, because I suggested it. So
I won't. My brain isn't that weak.
Well, no, the problem is this is very, very common, what you just said. And I'm saying, you're applying it to testimony. Well, I apply it to testimony with other areas.
You're right, because that's the problem. When something happens, but see, that still means there was an event, John. That's what you're missing. Even though they're getting different descriptions, there was still an event. Something did happen. Even though people may have seen it differently, there was still a physical event that occurred. So you got to wonder why, when there's a physical event like a murder or an accident, why people see different things. Even though you know there was an accident. Here's a good instance for y'all. Y'all remember Michael Brown in St. Louis when they said he chased the guy down the street, shot him in the back, and in the end we found out he never left his car. The guy actually reached in the car and tried to take his gun, and that's how he got killed. Okay. Well, all these witnesses, you got at least 24 witnesses said the kid was walking down the street with his hands up and got shot in the back. Well, that didn't happen. But you still had a bunch of witnesses that seen the event, and that's their take on it. And there was other takes of the event besides that one. In the end, because of other witnesses and the blood on his shirt and inside the car, we know what happened.
And that's classical false memory of all the classifications that I gave.
The point I'm making common. But the point I'm making isn't that there was false memories, that there was an event. There had to be something to trigger it.
Right. No, we're saying the information of reporting it was false because of all these different ways the mind plays tricks and incorporates stuff. And so that's why
why aliens
testimony
and UFOs,
is very
I never
skeptical.
take the descriptions seriously, because unless we get matching descriptions from a lot of other people.
That's the other problem too. When you get testimony in court and it's a year or two later, that's even worse, because the memory is even more prone to, let's say, disinformation and distortion. Can you hear me okay? Because my mic fell and I put it back on.
No, you're good.
I want to make sure I didn't disconnect.
Dora,
what else you got? What else you got there?
Dora, is that your name? Look. Oh, no, Dora, this show going to do 1 million listeners, and I guarantee you. No, John and I are having fun. That's part of it. The discussion is the argument. Oh, whatever. Go on. We ain't looking at your question. Let's move on.
We have fun.
Wait, okay, let's see what Carol's got to say. Carol says she thinks she's experienced a Mandela effect because she remembers being in an accident and even having surgery. But when she went to the doctor, nothing, she couldn't find any recollection of it. And then one day, she went in for something. She had twisted her ankle or her knee or something, popped her knee out, that's what it was. And she went in and they did an x-ray, and the doctor asked her, had you ever had surgery before? And she said, well, what do you mean? He said, you got a scar down your bone, a pretty good one. He said, but there's no outside scar. So something happened, but what it was, so she remembered something happening, but for some reason or another, it switched over. And it was like a partial memory, and then you call it a cover memory, but it might have been another real memory. Wow. It might have been in between, floating around somewhere.
Ask me how long ago this happened. I'm just curious. How long ago?
Where'd you go? Well, y'all scrolling too fast. Come back up with the question.
I'd love to get more information from her. That's fascinating. But I'm on Facebook too, or my website. She said
about 8 or 10 years ago. Any other thing?
Let me give out my contact information too. I usually do. I'm actually easiest to reach on Facebook, and it's just John DeSalvo, and picture me with my hat, sunglasses, and 007 in Maple Lake, Minnesota. I also am director of the Great Pyramid of Giza Research Association at GizaPyramid.com. GIZAPYRAMID.com, and just you can email the director. It's an incredible website of pyramid informations. I was the spokesperson for the Russian research for 8 years. I worked with the director of the Russian State Defense Enterprise. We formed the first research partnership, and that's all up there. And it's an incredible website. A lot of students use it for research. It's all free, of course, but you can email me there, or on Facebook. I do a lot of teaching. I answer my messages. I'm very accessible, and I never charge for anything. So I like to, I was a professor most of my life of biophysics and biochemistry. And I like helping students, giving them guidance and direction. And so that's an interesting story.
Raymond's writing in. He works for the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, the IUPAC. He said that they've been discussing phantom elements that are probably extraterrestrial in origin. Now, when he says this, ladies and gentlemen, before you start jumping to ET, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about elements that are phantom elements that they theorize about, that are probably extraterrestrial in origin, meaning you might find them on Jupiter in deep space, dark matter.
That's common.
That's not unheard of. Yeah, that's not that stuff. No, that's not.
I actually own some of those elements.
For lack of. Technically, every element we talked about is from deep space.
Not the ones, just some of the half-lives are so short, but that they originally may have been in the samples that I had. Interesting.
Well, if it's a natural element, it's from space, guys. Yeah, because everything's made from star stuff, so everything comes from the same place.
There's a meteorite. Munchin. Oh, I used to be a meteorite collector.
Now he's talking about a meteorite they found in South America, and it's a metal that they're not quite sure what it is. He said that it's definitely extraterrestrial in origin, meaning it's from another world or another place. But he said that he's not sure what it is. And he said what's really weird about it is when he did samples, it pinged on the computer that there was a sword made somewhere in Europe that has the same element, which suggests that somebody made a sword out of a meteorite, by the way, guys. It's not ET.
I have a keris from, a keris sword, which is a ceremonial keris from Somalia or whatever. And I had it tested. It's meteorite iron. It's about 100 years old, and it's a beautiful piece. I actually posted it on Facebook. So yeah, meteorite iron has been used for amulets and all kinds. The
metal one he found is it's not defined the periodic table. They're just not sure. They can tell it's 3 or 4 metals that not normally melt together because there's some aluminum in there and there's some steel. And usually steel and aluminum separate from each other when you heat them together because they heat at different temperatures. And so they're kind of confused. Somehow or another, they think this thing was involved in some kind of nuclear reaction. Maybe a planet explode, maybe a sun going nova, something. Could be any damn thing. But they're not sure. But none of the materials are haven't been found before. They're just been put together in an unusual way.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that. That's
fascinating stuff.
It's good. Oops, there goes my mic again. Good comment. Okay. I need better.
Guys, we got like 5 minutes. I better spit them out. What's that? You must have missed that, Gene. No, we talked about time travel pretty good in the beginning of the show. What do you mean? Do I think it's possible? Theoretically? Yeah, anything theoretically is possible. I'm just going to put that out there. If it's a theory, it's possible.
Even Elvis could be alive.
So yeah, and Elvis could be alive. He might have went home, just like Kennedy did. They came, picked him up, brought him home. He took, what's her name? I was going to say Madonna. What was her name? What was the blonde's name? Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, no, he picked her up and took her home with him.
Oh, my friend was a Secret Service agent. You could tell you stories about that. But
I can imagine. I've heard some.
And I promise never to reveal. Oh, by the way, something. I just lost my train of thought. Elvis Presley. I wrote. As you know, I published 12 books. One of my early books, I was a science editor and kind of co-authored it with Frank Adams, who wrote a book called Scientific Studies on a Shroud of a Face of Jesus, who we then wrote a book together called Sinden. And that prototype book was the book Elvis Presley died in his hands, and his daughter confirmed it with me. And it's actually on the internet. You could look it up. So that's kind of cool that people would say, don't take any books DeSalvo wrote to the whatever.
Okay. All right. What was that, Ronnie? Why do I think Einstein?
He was getting. Oh, by the way, I would say Elvis was getting very spiritual.
There's a couple other people
towards the end of his life, and
he was kind of
very interesting.
Well, he was when he was real young. People don't realize that he came from a very religious family.
He was very interested in Eastern philosophy and religion, and I had the opportunity to get some of his books from his library, but I, unless there were notes in them, who cares? I'm not an Elvis fan. But
Actually, guys, I don't think Einstein's theory of special relativity was wrong. And what we were talking about earlier was a way to cancel it out. We didn't say he was wrong. We were talking about ways that it might be able to be canceled.
there
Using
may
some
be
type of
ways.
technology.
There may, like how Einstein replaced the Newtonian physics. There could be a new type of physics that replaces that. That's a higher level. That explains.
Yeah, in one of Einstein's journals, he talks about faster than light speed travel. No, he actually believed we could go faster than light speed.
Well,
he wrote that he said that his theory was based on where we are today, and this is what would happen with current technology. He's actually got into this. He gave many lectures on faster than light travel. He did believe that one day man would achieve it, but he knew the way we're talking about now, rockets and crap like that, we can never achieve faster than light speed with the technologies or the direction we're moving with technology today. Now, there has been some fusion and fission technologies that might get us there. We're still working on a lot of that stuff.
Hey, can we get Elon Musk on our show? I love the guy.
I don't know. We can ask. I mean, all we can do is ask. He likes science. Maybe if we ask him if we smoke a joint with him, maybe he'll come on.
I was going to say, people don't. I just got to say, some people don't know us. We're good friends, and we do like to argue.
Oh yeah, John, we're going to argue, guys.
You and I are different than most people. People get emotionally involved. We just enjoy it.
Nah,
but
man, John,
I tell you what, I promise you, if we get Elon Musk on, we won't argue.
Oh, that'd be a whole different thing because we'd be trying to impress him. But no, guys, I'm gonna tell you a little secret about John. Okay, well, not so much about John. When John was hosting with Seraphine, who's one of our hosts on the network, really sweetie, I realized that John's the kind of person who has to be challenged. If he's not going to be challenged, he's going to be bored.
That's true.
Okay. So I'm gonna challenge his ass all the time. He's gonna challenge me. We both got science degrees, and we're gonna have good discussion. And as I can see from this group of people, he has been steadily doubling in size the whole night. So without that, they've been enjoying it. John's a great guy. I love it.
And by the way, that's the way science is done.
No, we both have science-based things, and we're going to discuss.
You defend your thesis. You get attacked by the professors, and that's all. I mean, you don't take it personally.
Guys, have y'all never been to a science convention? Oh, these guys are rude and nasty. They tear it. Wait, this is so funny because I tell you the discussions at Tulane. They'll get nasty with each other. I mean, be cussing each other. They're like a bunch of little brats, poor rotten brats. And then at the end of the thing, they're all friends going out to dinner, chit-chat. Because the kind of sciences we're talking about, most of this stuff is theoretical. Right, so there's lots of arguments here, whether it's extraterrestrial or elements or any kind of science we're going to be. That's what this show is about. We're going to be discussing a lot of science here. But we're going to do it in a different kind of fashion that is more enjoyable for y'all. Because, science can get a little boring. Yeah. Tonight one, boy, I agree with you. Stephanie's in here going, yeah, y'all going good. But we got to go, guys. We got to get out of here soon because Kathy's going to be coming on. But and remember, guys, you can come on the Power Talk room if you want to talk. I think Skype's working again, so you can try to 504-273-739. I know for a couple of weeks it was giving us trouble there, but I think it's back to normal again. So you can always do that. No, we love questions. Actually, this show is gonna open up for a lot more questions. I mean, we took about tonight, but
I hope we do, Joe, because again, I was a professor most of my life, and I always enjoyed the questions a lot more than lecturing and talking because they're fun. So yeah, I hope we can do that. Get more questions.
They got a Nick in here, Rocky Raccoon. He says he's from the future. Time travel is real. He just came back to listen to the show. Now he's headed home.
Tell him to say hi to Guido in the 23rd century.
Oh, man. I love that comment, by the way, man. Oh, we famous in the future? Well, we probably both did. Oh, so we did. We like Elvis. He's saying we like Elvis.
Art Bell, you remember he used to call in the time traveler? I love that guy.
Yeah. Man, I interviewed him. I can't think of his name right now, but I interviewed him actually.
That was great, wasn't it?
And some of that stuff was so hilariously funny.
Well, this is fun. I got to say,
indeed not. Well, if they stupid guess, we might be, but for the most part, we're not going to be really good guests. Oh, no, I'm planning on inviting Neil, that guy's Tyson, and Michio Keiko. There's quite a few.
Dr. Ron Mallet will get in and talk about it.
If I can get hold to, I always pronounce his name, Dr. Paul Levette, I always pronounce his last name wrong. He does cosmic string, but he also does quantum mechanics and quantum physics. But he also does the whatchamacallit theory, about the black hole gives off a gamma burst every 26,000 years. And what it does is, and he's proved this theory. I forgot about that. They were taking core samples, and they found out on Earth every 13 to 26,000 years, there's material deposited on our planet that comes from the core of our galaxy. So what they think happens is it gives off a burst, and as it moves outward, it creates a cloud. And well, when we see it, we'll watch this blue cloud coming towards Earth for probably 30 or 40,000 years. When it finally arrives here, though, it will completely blot out the sun. It'll fill our entire solar system with clouds. It'll trigger off a global warming, which of course will trigger off an ice age. And they say this is fairly common. And now that they've been cycling the ice ages, the ice age cycles almost meet the cycles of this 12 to 26,000 years. So it's interesting science. We'll get him on and talk about it in more detail. You know, what do you mean? Do I believe it? I don't know. That's not my science, guys. I can only go with what these guys tell us. I mean, it's not science that I've actually stuck my face into. Well, because what do I know about the core? Just what I've read. No, I keep up on space science because I got a big interest in space science. But I mean, there's a lot of it to keep up with, my friends. You got a bunch of space agencies out here, all kind of physicists out there. Oh no, if we can get Michio would love this conversation we had tonight. Oh God, yeah, he'd love it. Well, I introduced him to the stepping stone theory, which I'm sure he was familiar with, but not in the way I presented it to him. Well, no, because it shows you that ET could easily come to this planet without faster than light technology, and done on many, many times. Because real quick, because we got to get out of here. So let's say man decides to go to Proxima Centauri. It'll take us probably 10 years to get there. At the speeds we have today. So once we're on the way, we'll establish a base on Mars, one on the moon, one out in L7. We'll establish one probably on Titan, Europa, and then we'll put one out in Oort cloud and probably out there, and then we'll put one halfway to Proxima, and then we'll put one at Proxima. So now we've got bases from Earth to Proxima, so we can step. People don't have to be on the ship all the time. They can change around. Like I said, it'll probably take 10 years to get there, but it won't be 10 years on a spacecraft. Sometimes you'll be in a base, sometimes you'll be moving, but you'll constantly be moving in that direction. So once you get to Proxima, you'll go to the next one, then the next one, the next one. Well, at half light speed, you can explore the entire known galaxy in 320,000 years. Oh, that sounds like a long time, but man plans on living on this planet for another 3 or 4 billion years, which means we can explore our entire known galaxy over 50 times in that period of time. That's only at half light speed, and that's assuming that we'll always start from Earth. Once we've expanded in the entire galaxy, exploring it's not even going to be a big deal. That's why one of the reasons they're working on tachyons, because they need faster than light communication. That's one of the big advantages if they can, make tachyons work. Well, no, it's still a theory. It's not been proven. No, theories don't mean they're proven. It just means they're a theory. What do you mean? Evolution is still a theory. Believe it or not, evolution is still a theory.
No one's exactly right, and there's actually variations on it. So yeah,
it's still a theory. But I know we got to go. John, one more time. Y'all catch him on Facebook. Oh no, Sarah.
GizaPyramid.com.
Is this Seraphine? Is this a different Sarah? Oh, you don't know who Seraphine is?
Which chat room are you on, Joe?
I'm on Facebook. They got a group chat going on Facebook.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We've been doing it for about 3-4 years now. They just log into it. They started and they started and then they harass me is what they do. But so you're not that Sarah? Okay, so what? No, that's $9.99 a minute. You want to see him dancing like that? Oh, and I get half, by the way. I don't want to be there. Sarah, why don't you dance naked for $9.99 a minute? That's just rude. That's just rude. You sure you ain't the other Sarah? No.
No, she's. I know she. I spoke to her before. She's not. She's not up.
Okay. No, okay. So it's a different Sarah. So you got 2 Sarahs. Oh, okay. Maybe I get 3. Oh, so maybe this is the Mandela effect going on here, man.
Parallel Sarahs.
Anyway, we got to go, guys. We had a great time tonight. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. John and I are going to be having a lot of fun as this show grows and expands. I really expect these audiences to get unbelievably big. After discussions, I know. I see y'all. Y'all have been enjoying this discussion all night long. Questions going on, shit flying all over the place. And remember, always feel free. That's what we're here for. We want y'all to join in. We want you to participate.
Yes.
Well, guys, y'all can always post. If you don't want to be in groups, you can always post to my main Facebook pages. I'll catch them there, too. I'll keep them open. And there is the Pile Talk chat room, which, by the way, is empty. Well, that's 6 people in it right now, but for the most part, it's empty. But yeah,
they can send me questions ahead of time on Messenger.
You can send John questions.
I read them all usually. So I mean, I'm very accessible.
Yeah, don't feel free to write it whatever you want. And Hushin Chai, is that? I'm not even close, am I? Hu Chin Chai, is that right? Close. Okay, Hu Chin Chai. Okay. Where you from? I can't pronounce that province in China. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what the hell that is. Real quick, and then we got to go. Real quick. Oh, you know what? save that question for next week. John and I, before we, whatever guest we bring on, we'll touch it real quick. So you're thinking the COVID thing is a Mandela effect. That in one spec, that's why China only part of China.
That's interesting.
Well, we ain't got time tonight, but John, keep that in your head.
I love that guy. Good question. Excellent.
So keep that for next week, and we will definitely take on that. I promise you, we will take on that question next week before we bring anybody on with us, or if we because we're not going to always have guests because we like to talk. But
yeah, I actually my favorite shows are when it's just you and I are on and we chat and argue. It's fun. I love it. So
I bet you money it's going to be a record breaker. But anyway, we will keep that question for next week, and we will take that question. I'm surprised Kathy hasn't told me to get my big ass off the air yet. Oh, you mean when I almost said the F word? We have a delay box that catches that stuff. I think it's a 5 or 7 second delay. It catches it and wipes it. Yeah, for the FM broadcast, because I was informed yesterday that we'll be back full broadcast in New Orleans again pretty soon, because they're going to open us up to get back to our computers. Yeah, they're tearing down the Hard Rock. They're going to remove the bodies. As a matter of fact, I heard. Anyway, that's enough of that. I got to get out of here. Again, guys, thanks again for tuning in the show. We had a fabulous time tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Any moans, groans, bitches, gripes, or complaints, write to John, because you know what I'm going to tell you.
Hey, thanks for listening, and thanks, Joe. God bless everybody.
All right, we're going to get, guys, hang on for Quantum Leap with Kathy Bell.
Tearing it up on the ones and twos. It's your boy, DJ Mo. Hey.